It is not selfish for a mom to take time for herself, 30 minutes a day, whether it's to take a bath or exercise or whatever. You can't continue to pour from an empty cup. And you have to just understand that you're not in competition with anybody else. It's just yourself. It's just you. You are the only person who can make yourself better. I would say you just have to start somewhere, but don't take this all or nothing mentality. It's going to be hard. Usually good things can be hard.
I think this is the 60th episode of this podcast, but this is a first, and this is the first time I've found someone who wanted to do this, because up until this point, it's all been coaches and healthcare providers talking about fitness and health from our perspective. So we're from like the facilitator perspective. And I've really wanted to have someone on who's not an active healthcare provider and not actively coaching anyone, but is the recipient. You know, someone who's gone through and had that experience, because ultimately this podcast is designed to challenge and guide people. And I think it's one thing when a healthcare provider or a coach says, oh, this is doable, you should do this. And a lot of times people say, well, yeah, obviously you're saying that, or, you know, that sounds great, but from my perspective, it seems impossible, or there's all these roadblocks in the way.
Right.
And so I think it's really valuable to find people who are living it to talk about their experience. And I noticed that you had been posting on social media a lot more. So I thought, okay,
yes.
And you're sharing a ton of stuff. And I mean, not just about fitness, but about your life and about why you're making these changes. And okay, I mean, you're recording videos from your car and you're just doing all this stuff. So you're sharing about. So I thought, well, I'll reach out to Markie. Maybe she would like to have more of like a long form discussion about everything. So I'm curious, what was the catalyst for you to start opening up on social media about your journey and about everything? Because it just, to me, kind of came out of the blue, and then all of a sudden you're just posting. Maybe was this something that you had been thinking about for a long time, or like what compelled you to start sharing your journey?
So I found some really good accounts on Instagram. Not your quote unquote influencers. These are women who are just kind of like me or built like me, sharing their fitness journey. One of the first accounts that I started following, because she had called out the selling point that you'll see some influencers post, like, get rid of your hip dips. And she's like, yeah, that's anatomical. That you're not getting rid of that. And I was just like, finally, there's somebody calling out. Having had a beginning career in healthcare, you know, I scroll through some of these things and I'm just like, that's just a load of bull, you know, like that's not how that works. So I found some really good accounts that, and one in particular that was really just inspiring. And she wasn't out to, get women. She's not even a coach. She is now. But I had found some accounts that really resonated with me. And I was like, I had started two and a half years ago when you started Fit Club and stuck with it. And it's become a huge part of my life now. Like it's become so routine. And I just wanted to share that, look, this is what it's like when you're starting from scratch, or if you don't have to look a certain way or be at a certain type of athletic ability to start doing this or to do it. I also started posting because there's just someone that I can sort of inspire, or just someone be like, okay, all right, she's doing it, I can do this too, especially coming from a cultural and society standpoint of how bodies should be perceived or how they should look. And that's something I've struggled with a long time growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s. So body aesthetics are, um, glorified or idealized, and that's still going on today. And so it was also selfishly for my own, um, more for my own benefit, or at least self-confidence. Um, because I do feel like we sort of have this mindset of how, if you're a woman and you lift weights, you should look a certain way. You should have visible muscle definition, or be ripped, or, be a certain body fat percentage. When I started following lots of women who have different body shapes and sizes and are still accomplishing great things, Ironman competitions, hydroxes, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, or who do CrossFits, or just, powerlifting and type of thing. So there's just refreshing to sort of see this non-conformed look of what the body can do, and how athleticism is portrayed, and how strength is portrayed. So that was just kind of coming from that. And then I'm a mom, so some of the things just have to do with parenthood and motherhood, um, and the things that I love. Whereas lifting weights has become a new hobby for me. There are things that aren't new for me, like I love home decor. Some of my posts are about antiques and things like that. I'm a history lover, so that's always like at my core. So my account, just, I know, I feel like someone's going to look at my account and look at it and be like, you're kind of all over the place here. It's not just one thing, but that's just me. I'm not going for I'm not looking to be an influencer of interior design or home decor or weightlifting or motherhood or anything. It's just all in one.
Well, we met a couple of years ago when you were part of the inaugural Fit Club.
Yes.
And I think for the listeners, if you don't know, then Markie works for Hillsdale College, and I contract through Hillsdale. And the college several years ago, they had a question of whether or not they could save money by promoting on healthcare, by promoting a healthier workforce. And they very quickly realized, to their credit, that no one wakes up in the morning and gets motivated to go to the gym because they want to save their boss money. So we had to provide some type of value and meet people where they are and help them accomplish their goals. And if we could help them accomplish their goals in a healthy way, then that process ideally would come back and lower healthcare costs. And so we launched Fit Club, and largely experimental, a 6-month program. And your stats, I was looking them up because I kept pretty detailed stats. Out of 6 months, out of all of the in-person training that was available, you had a 77% participation rate. And what's more impressive, out of the virtual options, you had an 88% participation rate. So when no one was looking, when there was no group around, you actually had the motivation, even, you know what I mean? Like even more so, which is almost the exact opposite of a lot of people. And I think a lot of people would look at those numbers and look at you and be like, how is she so motivated and how am I not motivated? How does she have those kind of numbers? So I'm curious, the Markie who before Fit Club saw Fit Club as an opportunity, what were you like at that point leading up to making these big changes?
I don't, there was just something that wanted to be a better and healthier version of myself. My family has a lot of risk factors, cardiac risk factors. My cholesterol had always been borderline or slightly elevated, runs in my mom's family. And, you know, I didn't have the healthiest habits even working as a nurse. I mean, I didn't eat terrible, but I drank a Pepsi every day. I was running on empty. And then I had the crazy idea to go back to school while I was still working full time and having kids, and um, got the job at the college. And I went from being on my feet to a desk job and gained weight and was really frustrated. So I 2021, like spring of 2021, I joined Noom and was successful with that. I had lost like 20 pounds and I had kept that off for about 3.5 years. But I didn't really focus on exercising at that point. I just focused on nutrition and tracking my food, which is what I found to be the most successful for me. Even when I stopped the program, I continued to track my food. And I would occasionally get on the treadmill, but that was like pulling teeth. It was not enjoyable. I did not like it, but I was doing it because of the health benefit. So when the opportunity came to do Fit Club, I jumped at that because it was during the lunch hour, and I'm not a morning person. If my only option was to work out in the morning, it wouldn't happen. And at the end of the day, I was coming home, you know, I had homework to do, you know, with the kids and things like that. So the lunchtime hour was perfect for me. And in the past, when I had worked at a medical group, some of my coworkers and I, we did cardio drumming, and I loved it. I had so much fun with that. Um, I didn't lose any weight, but another lady and I won the competition for losing inches. But that was the first time I'd actually found something that I enjoyed. And so when that opportunity came for Fit Club, I thought, okay, you know, lifting weights is, I think, something that I could get into and enjoy, and I did. I had decided it was time to focus on being a healthier version, showing my children the importance of taking care of their health, not for aesthetic purposes. Although I'd be lying if I would say that isn't still an issue. But the importance of taking care of our bodies. And it was hard at first. I'm not going to lie and say that, oh, it was automatically like, I got up and was like, oh, I want to do this every day. There were days that I was like, okay, nope, you got to go do this. You got to go do this. But I loved it. I found there's a certain adrenaline, especially now with having progressed to lifting heavier, there's a certain adrenaline that comes with being able to move heavy stuff. And now I have to, instead of talking myself into going to the gym, now I have to talk myself out of it some days, taking a rest day or deload week, because I like to challenge myself. I've intellectually and now physically, and I enjoy that challenge. And unfortunately, I'm not usually one to back down from one. So I'm constantly challenging myself. I'm in competition with myself, and I like pushing that, and I like doing that. And I love that the college started this program. I loved it that even after those 6 months were over, I decided that I want to keep doing this. I felt better. I liked feeling stronger. And then when I had my lab work done the following, like I had my routine blood work done just as we started our Fit Club. And then the following year, when I had my routine labs done again, there was improvement. Every year there's been improvement in my lab work since we've done Fit Club. Since I started Noom, but then when I started Fit Club, there's been improvement in my cholesterol levels. This past May, everything was actually normal. You know, I'd normally run slightly high in some areas. But over the years, my triglycerides have improved significantly. My total cholesterol has gone down. My cholesterol ratio has gone down. And so that makes me feel better too, knowing that I'm decreasing my cardiac risk as well, which is really big in my family. Um, but it's also just become therapy. I know for a lot of people, it's a good uh, mental release. And I do love that. I love just being able to put on my music and just go lift. And so it's been so beneficial, uh, physically, internally, biometric wise, and then as well as a mental improvement.
I think a lot of people are going to look at, if you really think about your stats for those 6 months, and you think about the fact that you've kept going, the motivation, I think a lot of people would listen to this and just almost salivate over that motivation. Just they want it. And I feel like that's something that like holds a lot of people back, whether it's for fitness or healthcare or pain management. I think a lot of people see themselves as the biggest hurdle. They look at a plan and they go, oh, that would be an excellent solution, but I don't have the motivation. I'm too weak. I'll never follow through. And it's almost like this internal battle of conquering themselves to do what they know that they need to do. And so when we look at motivation, there's it's largely internal, but there's also like an interpersonal
Right.
aspect to it for a lot of things, and that could be family. For you, it seems like setting a good example for your kids. That's probably a big deal. But I want to dig deeper into like what over those 6 months. I mean, an 88% participation rate for virtual training. So for people that know, that's like there's no coach around. There's a workout and an app. No one's going to call you if you don't do it. You know what I mean? And you're going to log that and then move on into the next day and keep doing that. And a lot of this was done in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
So it was cold and school had started and you had all sports were going on, all the things, sports and groceries and Christmas pageants and you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
holidays and gifts. And if for all like the super moms out there thinking about it, run through that list in your mind of every reason why you don't make the changes that you know that you need to make. Markie has all of that going on, and still 88% of the time when no one was looking, you said, nope, I'm going to make time. I'm going to do this. Where does that motivation come from?
I think some of it has to, because by the fall, we had already been doing this for so many months. And I will say that that December was really hit or miss. I also quickly realized when I was taking more time to skip in December, because we did a door decorating contest in my office, which we just totally nailed. And so we're very competitive. And I quickly realized it was, even though I had been doing this for like 6 months, it was really easy to just say, I'm not going today. And that terrified me because I was like, I have made this much progress. I felt stronger. Um, and I have every excuse to not to. I have 3 kids. I'm still in school. I still am in school. Um, they're working full time. And that's why, like, for me, the lunchtime was crucial. I know that that's my only time to do it. And if I wasn't going to do it then, it wasn't going to happen. And I've always had the mentality that it is not selfish for a mom to take time for herself 30 minutes a day, whether it's to take a bath or exercise or whatever. You can't continue to pour from an empty cup. And so these, 30 minutes or whatever, especially when it was cold, like right now, it's like, oh, I've got to bundle up, go outside, go to the gym. When normally I would just walk. But I don't know. There's just something, I'm a very stubborn and bullheaded person, or driven, depending on how you look at it, I guess. And so there was something in my mind knowing that I had already accomplished that. And if I stop, what what am I gaining? I'm gaining absolutely nothing by stopping. I'm gaining absolutely nothing by quitting. Um, And I started to look at what my body can do. I can lift this. I can accomplish this. I can do this. Things that I didn't think I could do. Things like a pull-up, which I still can't do, but it's on my list of things to do. But when you used to have to do that in gym class when in elementary, middle school, and that was something I could never do. So it's part of it is just this, I don't know, ingrained drive that I just want to do this. And then it also became, me competing with myself, still competing with myself about like, okay, if one day I lift this much weight, I'm like, okay, you know what? Next time I'm going to do this much more weight. Like I love pushing myself, but also I felt like I had worked that hard. I had committed for so much for that time and gained so much that I also had a lot to lose by stopping. And that wasn't worth it. I had never been able to consistently stick with a workout program, whether it was being on the treadmill, other than the brief time of cardio drumming. I had never found anything that I truly enjoyed. And I found that I really enjoyed weightlifting. And that I think is important for some people who have to do something that they don't like and then they don't stick with it. And I think it's important to find the thing that you like to do it, whether it's yoga or Pilates or weightlifting or CrossFit. I know we've done some CrossFit stuff, and I was like, kudos to everyone who does CrossFit. That is not for me. And I just thought, I know a couple of people, and I know you were like, oh, try it. I've tried it. I don't love it. And I just thought, if I don't love it, I'm not going to have the desire to keep doing it. So I found the thing that I enjoy doing. And I think the biggest thing that I wish people would realize, something I realized, it takes time. When you go in thinking you're going to have these results in, 3 months. And part of that is because you do see people promoting their programs. You can go from this to this in, 8 weeks and get your summer body or get your beach body or whatever. Unless you are working out 7 days a week for hours and have your nutrition honed in like crazy, it takes time. And I quickly realized that it was very humbling. And so that was part of like, if I know that I want to change my body, improve the composition or lose fat or build muscle, I have to stay with it for more than 6 months. It's going to take time. And I'm still not where I would like to be. And sometimes it is frustrating. Mostly just that's sort of a battle with myself. Like, okay, where you think you should be. I think we just all have these unrealistic timelines sometimes when we think about how long it actually takes to accomplish, especially when it comes to fitness. And being a woman, I don't build muscle as quick as, men typically do. My 14-year-old son, in 3 months of weightlifting for school, outlifts me by twofold, and I've been doing this for 2.5 years. And it's like, okay, he's got youth to his advantage, but it's something that you just have to want. You have to want it bad enough to continue doing it. And I've gotten to the point where, having the support from the classmates and the coaches, and that helps push you along. And I think that's important too. When you have the support of the people around you, that's huge to keep going.
So it seems like keys to your success: finding a community, so people to work out with, coaches who care, being around like-minded people, finding something you enjoy doing that's not a chore. So you're not always going to love going, but on the balance, you do really enjoy it. And then having some patience and realizing that it's not going to happen overnight, and that's okay. And that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. And then something else you said that I think may get lost in the shuffle, but this is so common where it's like, it's not selfish, especially for a mom, to take time to take care of herself. And
Or
I would,
dads. I should say, or dads too, because honestly, both nowadays,
yeah,
both parents are expended and, you
the,
know,
I guess it's a difference in mentality. Actually, my wife and I were joking about this the other day because she was joking about it because apparently, I don't remember even this happening, but like a week ago, I came home and she had been with both kids. I think I was working on a Saturday, and she was at her wit's end, and she was like, "You got to take the kids. I have to go use the restroom. I've been holding it for 2 hours." And I don't remember this conversation, but then she was telling me about it. She said, "You looked at me like I was an idiot." And I can picture, or I can imagine what my thought was. It was like, yeah, take care of yourself. If you've had to pee for 2 hours, go use the restroom. And if the kids are crying, let them cry and just go take care of your basic needs.
yeah.
Because, but her thought process for her personality and as a mom, and it's no, I've got to take care of my kids first. Their needs come even before my bodily function, and I think that it's kind of a funny example, but I think, and this is stereotyping, I think dads, we tend to maybe, and it depends on the person, but we tend to take care of our needs more. Not that we're more selfish, but I don't know. I guess I get that comment or that thought a lot more from my female patients, for example. And I think there's that pressure to be super mom, like everything has to be perfect.
Mhm.
And when you have this long list of like, are the Christmas lights good? Does the tree look good? Does everybody have a gift? Like how many gifts? Everything that runs through your mom brain.
Yes.
And then at the bottom of that list is your own needs. But you can't burn the candle at both ends
No.
forever. And if you're not happy with yourself, if you're going down that path where you don't like the way you function, you don't like the way you look, you don't like the way you feel, that doesn't serve your family. I would rather my wife go to the gym and do what she wants to do 5 days a week, and I get less time with her, but the time I get with her, she's in a better mood and she's in general just healthier and happier. I would sacrifice that time. But it seems like moms don't think that way instinctively. And it's probably it's probably hormonal. There's a lot to it, but I think that's a really big hurdle for a lot of men and women to say, no, it's okay to take care of myself. It's
Yes.
important to take care of myself. How did that epiphany come to you? Because that's more than just being stubborn.
I
How did you stumble upon that truth?
I realized that a long time ago. I am very much an introverted person and I love my family. I have three kids. And I have a fantastic husband who's very hands-on. So I can't sit here and without acknowledging how much he helps me. Um, but it started out just being like taking a bath at night, just having, like 30 minutes to myself to just recharge. And, that's something he understands that I need. And my husband is very selfless. He will put himself last to make sure I have what I need, to make sure the kids have what they need, whether it's, you know, I get my bath time or, running kids around and things like that. We were having the discussion on the way to our son's basketball game today. Um, he's in junior high and we have a fourth grader playing basketball. We're just all over the place and I'm still in school. And due to my work hours, I get home late and I'm not able to be as helpful as I can. And so there are times that I do still have to sacrifice myself at night. He's been sacrificing for 8 years while I've been in school. but we do try to make sure it's important for each other to recharge. It's important for ourselves to be the best parent that we can be, to be the best spouse that we can be. Um, our marriage is a priority. And I also want my kids to see like it's okay for your parents to take a half hour or whatever to be to themselves. I unfortunately tend to be a bit short tempered. And so I know when I'm reaching my limits emotionally. And I try to do my best to mitigate that before, I blow up over something minor and it happens. But I just learned that I'm the type of person who I just need 15, 30 minutes to recharge myself, to just not be a grouchy mom, a grouchy wife. But it is hard sometimes. It's hard because as a mom, you want to nurture. And I think that's just how we are. Our kids want to make sure our kids are taken care of, our spouse is taking care of, that nurturing aspect of being a mother. And that is a hard thing to balance. And during football season, I had, told my son I was going to be at one of his scrimmages, and he's like, "No, I want you to do your homework." And I said, "I'll get it done." He's like, "No, I want you to get it done because if you don't do well, then you won't pass and you have to take the class again and this and that." And I looked at him and I said, "I appreciate your concern. I love that you are so concerned about that." And that also was really a rude awakening because my kids have made a lot of sacrifices over the years while I've been pursuing, my dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him and I said, "I want you to be able to look back and say, yeah, my mom was busy, but she still showed up for me. She still did everything she could to show up for me. And so sometimes that does mean putting myself last, putting my schoolwork on the back burner, or putting other things aside. But you can only do that for so long before you do start pouring out of an empty cup. And I've seen, loved ones and other people do that, and it's just stressful. It's stressful. There's no harm, and it's not selfish to just, take that moment to recharge. 15 minutes of quiet, or the bath, or going to work out. I mean, for me, working out is during my lunch hour. I'm not taking anything away from my family, but just by that time is perfect. But not everybody has that option.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it is important to sort of just acknowledge, whether as a mom, and even dads, it is okay to take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. It's better. You will be a better spouse, a better parent, or a better person when you can do that. And sometimes it just has to wait. But eventually, you just have to be like, okay, I just need that time.
Well, there's some kind of balance there. And I don't know if it can ever be 50-50, but sometimes that you're going to be in that season of life, or there's a period of the year where the balance swings heavily in your favor and you're able to work out more and do things more, and you're fully charged, and then you're going to go through those periods where all of your kids get sick, and the basement floods, or there's just stuff that's like, well, there's no possible way I'm going to have to make this shift, but I'm going to make the shift back. And I think a lot of times people just they might have an idea in their head and like, okay, I'm going to make these changes, and then something happens and they get off track and they just never get back on track. Mm-hmm. And they never try and regain that balance. And the balance, I think you can look at the balance as maybe, instead of like, how balanced is my week? No, how balanced is your year? Like at a bigger picture.
Right.
Because, like there's like this last month for me, I don't think I've worked out in a gym at all. It's just the timing is there's just been a lot of stuff going on. But I've still been exercising at home. Actually, I've gotten exponentially better at push-ups over the last month because that's all I have time to do. but I can sneak in a set of push-ups uh, actually a surprising amount of time. You know what I mean? Like I've got 20 seconds to spare quite often, and it's a nice little recharge.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times people just they just don't think about that kind of, it's like this all or nothing mentality. If I'm not part of a program and I'm not going 3 days a week at my regular time, then what's the point at all? And that becomes that's a slippery slope in the wrong direction.
It is.
And that can be really hard for a lot of people. They get derailed, and then 20 years goes by, and it's kind of like, I like the investing analogy, you know. It's like they were putting money into their 401k diligently for a while, and then they took 20 years off. And
Right.
now it's like, well, if you want to make up that lost ground financially, you're going to feel it. You're going to feel it coming out of your checking account, and you're going to have to accept a higher risk tolerance with your investments to try and get that return if you even can.
Mhm.
And then it becomes almost pointless for a lot of people. They're just like, well, I'm hopeless at this point. There's that. I feel like that's the sad part, when people just, they just kind of slump into this feeling of hopelessness. Um, and that's a big mental barrier at that point. That's really hard. That's a really hard
It,
one.
yeah, because it is easier to just be like, okay, well, you know what, I missed yesterday. I don't feel like it today. There was many days that I could sit there and say, I don't feel like it, whether it's because I'm tired
Yeah.
or as a female, certain times of the month or whatever. Like, I don't feel like it. You still go. That's actually what I've told myself, the days that I don't feel like going is when I absolutely need to go. And like, I was sick for a couple of weeks, and the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I had finally felt better enough to go work out. And, but the thing I noticed during like the 2.5 weeks, I wasn't sleeping as well. Actually, I was so achy, and I'm like, I know it's from not working out, not moving my body. I was grouchier. Um, I was grouchy. I,
I picture like a Snickers commercial. You know, you remember those, where it's like, I think you're
yes.
hungry. You should eat a Snickers. And it's like Markie's Markie's grumpy, and it's like, I think you need to go back squat.
I had shared on my Instagram. It was a reel of Sheldon from The Big Bang Theory, and it was like when you haven't been able to work out in a week, and he's really angry at the whiteboard. He's like, breaking it, and I'm like, I can kind of relate to that, just because I didn't have that time to not just move my body, but to just clear my mind and focus. Um, I also like to listen to some really angry rock music, maybe not angry rock music, but rock or metal or whatever. And that's therapy for me. I've always loved music. And so I love being able to just put my music on and just move and lift. And I felt like crap, not just because whatever I was battling, but, sickness wise, but also because I hadn't moved my body. And yeah, I could have just been like, oh, Thanksgiving's later this week. I'll just take the rest of the week off or whatever. Well, all I did do was work out on Wednesday. I didn't go Friday like I thought I would. I was actually pretty sore. And I
Yeah.
was like, you know what? That's okay. I'm going to take the rest because clearly I also needed it. But I'm going to get back at it on Monday. There's, I think, an importance in knowing I'm still learning when my body tells me you need to back off or you need to rest, and listening to that, then just stopping and being like, okay, I'm not going to do it. Like, I hurt, I'm not going to do it, or I'm tired, I'm not going to do it. Well, you still can. Just maybe don't push yourself as hard. Maybe just go
Yeah.
for a walk instead. Or, and I'm saying this as someone who used to just, I used to be like, okay, I'm going to get on the treadmill 3 days a week and be really diligent about it. And I do that for like 2 months. And then I'm like, I hate this. I'm not doing it. I could watch all the shows I want on TV or whatever while I'm on the treadmill, and I hate it. And I've never stuck with it. Like, this is truly the first program that I've stuck with long term. And that's why I think it's important for people to find what they like. Otherwise, you're not going to be motivated to stick with it. whether that is running. So, like one of my best friends, amazing. She has done a couple half marathons, and I was going to do one with her in May. And then I got on the treadmill and like ran for a half mile, which I thought killed me. It's like, mm-mm. No, I'll stick to lifting weights. Like, and then over the summer, she was still training and we were on vacation together, and I went on the track with her. And she jogged her entire, 3 or 4 miles that she was meeting that day. I would jog a lap, run, walk a lap, and jog a lap and walk a lap. And I was like, no, no, thought this would be like really cool accomplishment. And then I was like, this is just not my thing. It's her thing, and I love that she does it, and she's awesome. It is not my thing. And I think it's important to find your thing, whatever it is.
Well,
So,
you're looking long term. I'm curious, what does the future look like for Markie? Like, let's say we were to get back on this and do another episode in 5 years, and I don't see you for 5 years. And in 5 years, you're so excited to tell me about what has happened in the last 5 years. Like, if everything goes well and you keep going in the direction you want to go, who is Markie going to be in 5 years?
well, I'm hoping I finally sort of nailed down the career of my dreams. I'm almost there. I love my job. I love working at the college. I absolutely love working at the college, and I love where I'm at now. And I'm hoping to grow where I'm at. Um, that's kind of the point of me going back to school again. So I would like to be able to look at myself and be like, okay, I finally have the career that I've been chasing after spending 11 and a half years in healthcare that I was very blessed to do. I was finally able to accomplish my career. Um, I've been very fulfilled in my personal life. I have a wonderful family and kids. My career was somewhere that I didn't feel it, and I need that. But then I'm also hoping to be able to look back and see how I've taken more control of my health, um, being able to improve my longevity cardiac wise. As a woman losing bone density, I'm 38. I'm already losing some of that bone density, and we have bad bones in my family too. So, lifting is going to help hopefully avoid some of the things and the ailments that I've seen some of my family members go through. I also sort of have an itch to do a Spartan. Um,
There's running in that.
I know so, but there's obstacle courses.
It's true.
But I keep saying, so actually, Shanna, and if she watches this, she had mentioned this to me a couple of months ago, and I actually just sent it to her. There's one in July. I don't know that we're going to do that. But instead of focusing on maybe wanting to do a half marathon, they have a 5K version of a Spartan, and I would like to do one just because there's so many different obstacles, or at least, challenges in that. And I feel like it's a great way to push yourself. I also don't like failing. So um, that would be kind of a hard pill to swallow. But I just kind of want to keep pushing myself. I want to be able to look back and be like, I improved myself. I'm better now in 5 years, I'll be 43. I'm better now at 43 than I was at 23 physically, especially physically, but just overall, I want to improve the longevity. Um, not have to worry about if I fall at 60 that I'm going to break something and not recover, or even at 70. I mean, I've seen that throughout my healthcare career. I've seen people in their 60s give up and not take care of themselves. And I remember seeing patients in their 90s who were still living alone and independent and taking care of themselves. Like, I also think there's some of that generational mentality about taking care of yourself and perseverance. but I want to be able to look back and say that I've accomplished lots of things professionally, um, with my family. At that point, kids will be one out of school and in school, and be able to say that I took control of my health. I focused on being the best version of myself or my family, and hopefully, so then they can also see that it's never too late. It's never too late to go back to school. It's never too late to pick up weights and start taking care of yourself or whatever. Like, better late than never. So I have ideas of where I'd like to be in 5 years. And hopefully those are things I accomplish. Um, so yeah, it'd be interesting.
You have any advice or any closing thoughts for people who were where you were maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, and they're looking to the future and thinking, man, in 5 years, what could I accomplish if I just had fill in the blank, if I just had the motivation, if I just had the opportunity, if I just had more time, you know what I mean? All of the stuff that runs through people's minds, because you want it all, right? You want the marriage, you've got kids, and you want the career, you want to be fit and healthy, and you're doing it. You're finding a way to make it all work and still be super mom, wrapping Christmas presents and doing all that stuff. So do you have any advice for people who are looking forward at their next 5 years, and right now it just seems impossible to get what they want?
I would say you just have to start somewhere, but don't take this all or nothing mentality. Like, when I started to take control of my health, ironically, after being a nurse, when I should have been healthy, I wasn't. I started just with the nutrition aspect. I was like, I'm just going to focus on that because I have found, and I think it would agree that other people who try to take it all on at once, like, I'm going to exercise 5 days a week, I'm going to eat this, they tend to fail because you don't see results fast enough. You don't get what you want. We're sort of this instant gratification society. So start small. Start making small changes. If you want to start with your nutrition first, start making small changes towards healthier versions. And then if you decide I want to start working out, if all you can do is 1 day a week, great. Do 1 day a week. If all you can get is a 15-minute walk in, take the 15-minute walk. That is better than nothing. Gradually work yourself into doing more. Try to carve time out to do more. And that is easier said than done. And I realize that for lots of people. But you don't have to just be like, oh, I missed a day, so why bother continuing this? Or I missed a week. Well, I might as well, what's the point now? No, pick it back up and keep going. Like, that's probably the hardest thing. You just have to challenge yourself to realize you're gonna fail at times. That's inevitable. It's more important that you get back up and keep going, keep continuing. It's going to be hard, but usually good things can be hard. I mean, life's not always easy. It's going to be hard. You've got to work through the hard. And you have to just understand that you're not in competition with anybody else. It's just yourself. It's just you. You are the only person who can make yourself better. You are the only person, yes, there are lots of external factors. If you don't have, equipment or, people to, someone to watch your kids so you can go do this or whatever. Like, I realize that there are a lot of shortcomings that can impact your ability to do these things. But eventually you can say, okay, I'm going to choose me. I'm going to choose to do this. And I chose. Now, granted, if it wasn't for the college starting fit club, I probably would not have started working out. I don't know that I would have. Um, so I'm very grateful that for that opportunity. And that the college continued to do it and still does with Fit Club and functional fitness with Rachel. I realize that I'm very grateful to have that opportunity and have the facilities at work for that. But like, as you so often, will send us emails, do air squats at home, do push-ups at home. There are so many things you can do without having to have gym equipment that take very little time. So you just have to start somewhere. And if you got to start small and work your way up. That progress is better than staying stagnant. And, then maybe eventually you'll want more. I like challenges. I've been challenging myself intellectually for a while now, and then it's like the physical challenge, and I've enjoyed the physical challenge. It was hard at first, but then once you start seeing results, I think that's where a lot of people lose the motivation, is when they don't see results quick enough. And that was hard. But then I was like, okay, after 6 months, I could, see some changes. And even now I'm thinking, oh, I know there's changes. I think there should be more. But there's a lot of factors there: nutrition, genetics, and everything. So you also have to make sure you have realistic expectations.
Yeah, and I think that comes from not comparing yourself to other people, which is, I think, a really important point that you made, because that'll steal your joy so fast. You'll look at it like, I will notice people, and it's just something I see someone and I go, she looks different. She just looks different. Her clothes fit different, like in a good way. And I've seen those people still get derailed, because they're not looking at and just really enjoying the progress they've made. They're comparing their progress to someone else, usually on Instagram or Facebook, who is genetically very different,
Right.
and is definitely using a filter. You know what I mean? And it's definitely like getting the perfect angle and wearing you know what I mean? There's so much that goes into those posts, especially people who do this professionally.
Right.
They could spend a week creating a 10-second clip to make it look flawless.
I'm actually glad you mentioned that, because that is something that when I post, my video quality is awful. All right. I'm not a tech person. I've never used a filter. I don't know how to use a filter. My video quality is awful. I want people to see what it is to be real, not posed, not filtered, not edited, not photoshopped. I don't know how to do any of those things, but also because it destroys what we see. And having, like I've mentioned, growing up where, Cosmo was how to get your beach body, how to lose weight. And I've grown up seeing all of that on the magazines, these perfectly edited, photoshopped women, thinness, how to lose weight, get your beach body. I struggle. I would be 100% lying if I said I did not struggle with my confidence and body image. I still do. I still think I should be more toned, and maybe I'm not honing in my nutrition enough. But I like food. I also found if I don't eat enough, I'm grouchy. I get hangry.
Yeah.
I don't recover as well. I can't lift as well. I have to find that happy medium. But I get so sick of this, so sick of the culture having these expectations for women's bodies and men. Men, I mean, they catch some, flack too. But I always feel like there's just so much pressure, and I've never been a thin person, whatever by society standards. And I've struggled so much. My body has changed so much with 3 kids and weight gains, losses, and many changes. And sometimes I just have to sit back and be like, okay, it's not where I want it to be. But um, I've had 3 kids. I can lift X amount of weights. This is stuff I couldn't do before. And I'm constantly at a battle with myself about that. And part of posting this, and that's some of the reason why I follow some of the accounts I do, is because these women don't look like they were walking down a runway or have a certain aesthetic that we've come to associate with the ideal form of beauty. I'm not knocking women who are naturally thin and naturally athletic, because everybody's bodies are different. It's more this perception of how we should be, and so many of the women I follow, they'll share people's comments, whether they're real people or automated, I don't know, just trashing them. That's not a gym body, or that's what one of my favorite ones, someone had like totally bashed her back muscles. She's doing a pull-up and you could see her lats, you could see her traps, you could see, and I'm like, what is wrong with people where we feel it's so okay to openly bash and criticize these figures who are, and even people who are maybe obese or morbidly obese, who are starting to make health changes and sharing that with the world and being healthier. Like, I get so tired of a society that wants to criticize people for taking control of their health, however that is. And so some of my fuel is just out of spite, honestly, out of spite, because that, if someone went to comment and say, you're overweight, you're not athletic, whatever, I would be like, that you're just going to push me harder. Like, that's, it's, I just want to be relatable to anyone who wants to start, or who's at the same point, or to just, that's my goal. It's just to be as realistic and as real as possible. I'm not going to, say that, oh, I did this in 6 months, or I got from this to this, or no, that's just not me. I'm not Willy Wonka. I'm not going to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, a number of years ago, before we had bought a lot of the gym equipment, I had a young woman who, I think she's probably graduated by now. She had, I don't know, she had some type of joint pain or something. I don't know. That's why she came to me, and I was at the health center, and she was short and carrying extra body weight. But it was her body type, and she was obviously very self-conscious and unhappy with it, and was frustrated because she had some motivation, but she had this joint pain that was holding her back. But also, she didn't feel comfortable in the gyms. So at the time, we had the Jam. So it's for people who don't know, it's our varsity athlete weight room, and a lot of people don't. It's a great weight room, and a lot of people don't want to go down there because it's if you know what you're doing and you feel like people are looking at you, and there's a bunch of varsity athletes in there, it can be a little intimidating. And then the other option was the gym upstairs, which is all glass.
Yeah.
And it's more of like all glass around, and then it kind of looks out onto basketball courts and volleyball courts, but everyone can see everything. And I could not get her to go work out and to do her rehab and do all this stuff. And I was like, starting to get frustrated with her, but I was really lacking empathy because I wasn't thinking about it from her perspective. And I was like, let's go to the gym together. We'll just go. And I got her to go finally, and we're warming up on the treadmill or something, and it's facing a volleyball court, and the varsity women's volleyball team was practicing. And if you've never seen a varsity college women's or volleyball team, they're all about like 6'2",
Yeah.
very fit Amazon looking women. They're like super athletes.
Yeah.
And here I'm standing next to this young woman who's 5'1", you know what I mean? The exact opposite of what, and she's looking out there, and it's not to body shame the varsity athletes, that they are the way they are, and that's why they're varsity athletes. But
Right.
I was standing there next to her, and I was like, oh, I get it. I understand. Like, you don't, that's what you're looking at, and you're comparing yourself, and you can see
Hmm.
your reflection. And she just felt terrible about herself. And so she had the ability, she had the motivation, she had all of these things, but it was that comparison that, you know what I mean, that she couldn't get over.
Hmm.
And that was just like, I'm not a mental health provider, and then, so it's like, wow, man, and I'm not a woman, and I'm not a young woman, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, how do I have this conversation to help her realize that the volleyball team is not looking at you, nobody cares,
Right.
everybody in this gym is as self-conscious as you are. I'm looking around, I know what I'm doing, and I'm looking at all these people you think know what they're doing are not doing a great job. They're just in here doing stuff, and
Yeah.
they're all hoping that you don't look at them,
Hmm.
but you can't see that, and that's not your fault. And I think that's just the hard part from the healthcare provider, from the coach standpoint, is like, how do you get someone to not compare themselves to other people and put one foot in front of the other and just keep taking a bite out of that elephant one day at a time for long enough to get what they want? And it's a different puzzle with every individual person to unlock that. And so that's why you are one of those diamonds in the rough where, like, you just showed up and we just put a program in front of you, and you're like, oh, thanks, that's all that I need. I'm just going to keep doing this. And you just kind of dove right in, and it's like, oh, great. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even have to think about it. Like, she's probably going to train today, even though it's not a training day. And so that's why I was really excited to have you on the podcast, because I feel like there are a lot of people out there who hopefully listen to this podcast who are relating to it and thinking like, okay, well, I have a similar life. I have similar things going on. I can be stubborn too. You know what I mean? Maybe I just need to transfer my stubbornness from this to this. And I am going to take time for myself, even if it's just to go on a walk or just to
Right.
do some push-ups. And I'm going to prioritize, and I'm going to take that bath, and I'm going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to go on a date with my
Yeah.
husband. I'm going to do these things, and I'm going to stop sacrificing my own happiness 100% of the time, and I'm going to give myself something back. So I'm hoping that, you know, conversations like this, people listen to it and they go, I could do that. Maybe not as well as Markie, but I could take that step. And that's what I like about your social media is it's just like, it's definitely unfiltered and unedited. It's just very real. You
It
know what I
is.
mean? And sometimes you're
That's partly
saying
because I don't
stuff
know
and
how to do it.
I'm like, oh man, I don't think she definitely didn't edit that, you know, but it's
Nope.
like, oh, okay, well, that's, but that you're doing that on purpose. You know what I
I
mean? You're
do
just,
edit some of the videos so you don't have to like see my face as I'm, pushing
well,
start and
yeah,
stop. But
stuff like that.
I really don't know how to edit. And I don't have time
Yeah.
to learn that stuff right now. My goal is not to be an Instagram influencer. Like,
Yeah.
that's not what I'm seeking. Yeah, I probably could fine tune them just a little bit. But I also am like, okay, I've got, X amount of minutes after I'm done to do this.
Yeah.
But I do relate to that student. Um, Again, going back to there's always comparison as a female, um, not being thin enough or pretty enough, or there's all these expectations to look a certain way. I remember growing up, Abercrombie and Fitch and Hollister were the premier clothing. I was too big to fit into those clothing lines after the eighth grade. I think I had one Abercrombie shirt that came in an extra large, and that was like a unicorn because if you grew up and shopped at those places, that was like almost unheard of. I've always been uncomfortable in my own body, and that's terrible to say at 38 years old, and it's a struggle. And that's just from me. I have no one else making me feel that way. My husband does not make me feel that way. I'm very grateful to have a husband who has loved me at every stage. Um, so that's certainly not coming from anybody else other than myself. And that's something I continue to work on. And some days I get frustrated. We're like, okay, I can't look the way I want to. So I'm just going to try to deadlift as much as I possibly can. Because if I can't look the way I want, I'm just going to be strong.
Yeah.
That's not a really healthy mentality to have, but there is some serious adrenaline rush at being able to do that. I mean, I have this goal to try to back squat 200 by the end of the year, and I don't know whether that's going to happen, which I don't like failing. So that's a hard pill to swallow. And it's not for maybe lack of trying. Um, but sometimes I just need to know my body's limitations. And that's humbling. I tried reverse lunging 95 the other day and I got stuck. And this was after back squatting. So, and I was already tired from doing legs on Tuesday and then doing legs again on Wednesday. That wasn't a wise choice, but I like to get 2 leg days in and I got stuck. I was one knee on the ground and I just sat there. And thankfully I had a wonderful classmate who came and helped me. That was a little humbling. And so then it's like, okay, I need to back off a little bit, but that's not going to stop me. Just like I know a lot of the ladies, because the class I'm in now is a women's only class. And over the summer, yeah, I think it was summer, it wasn't necessarily like that. And some of the ladies got uncomfortable because there were men in the class. And it's not there was anything wrong with it. It's just a lot of women don't feel comfortable going into a gym where there's guys because they, feel like they're going to be judged or whatever. And one of the ladies in our class, who I also actually work with in the library, she's like, it doesn't bother you to go, when you're at the splits and Louise. I said, not anymore. I mean, I used to be self-conscious probably, but now I'm just to the point where it's like, I don't care what you think of me. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. Maybe I'm not having perfect form. Maybe I'm not doing something right. Maybe they would think these weights that I'm grabbing are sissy. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not doing it for you. So I guess that's as a woman, that is a hard concept to not care what people think or to worry about being judged.
Yeah.
And
I will
it's a
say,
hard hurdle. That's a hard hurdle to get over. It's just to not
yeah,
care
I
what
will
people
say, and
think.
I don't know if this helps anybody, and maybe this is just me being too pragmatic, but there are jerks in the world who are going to judge you.
Mhm.
They'll judge you if you're in the gym, they're judging you in the grocery store. It is the reality,
Yeah.
unfortunately. So if the reality is you're just going to be judged, you might as well do what you want, you know?
Yep.
So you're only hurting yourself then. And you're still getting judged. That's the frustrating part for people, or it's frustrating for me. It's like, okay, well, you don't want to I want to help you. You don't want to go to the gym because you're afraid to be judged. Don't go to the grocery store then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that same jerk who's going to judge you in the gym, he shops there. You know what I mean? And so we gotta. It's just such a hard thing to get over, and it's not that simple. Where I could just be like, well, just don't think about it.
I know.
It's incredibly hard. It's one of the biggest hurdles. But I think if people can wrap their mind around the fact that people will judge you regardless, do what you want, live your life, and a lot of the people you think are going to judge you, they're not.
Art. Yeah.
I think having been a varsity athlete and connecting with varsity athletes, like in our weight room, they don't even know you're there. You know what I mean? If they're in their training, they don't even want to be there most of the time. They're getting in and getting out. You know what I mean? Like
They're focusing on themselves.
they are
right?
so focused on
Yeah.
earning or keeping a starting spot or doing these other things, they don't even know you exist. Not in a bad way, but there's just and you might be sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, these Amazon women on the basketball team are judging me. It's like, no, they don't even, like, they're not. And if you went to go ask them something, they would probably just smile and help you,
Right.
because most people recognize and appreciate effort, you know,
Hmm.
even if they can't completely empathize because they haven't been exactly where you are. The fact that you're there side by side with them, you're part of the crew at that point. And I think the ratio of jerks out there who are going to laugh at you, I think it's actually a lot smaller than what
I
people
do.
think. And I think they
Yeah.
get amplified online
Hmm.
because because they can, they can amplify their hatred. You know what I mean? Like they can reach a lot of people
Yeah.
anonymously. And so you're going to be judged regardless. Do what you want. And most of the time you think you're being judged, you're actually not. People don't even know you're there. And you're looking over at someone thinking like, oh, I hope she doesn't judge me. She's thinking the same thing.
Right.
Regardless of like how she looks, she might have a physique that you think is ideal, quote,
Hmm.
something you might see in a magazine. Those people tend to be really self-conscious too,
Yeah.
even though they have the genetics and all and I just think, I think a lot of times people don't realize that being self-conscious and having low self-esteem and comparing yourself to other people, it's pretty common,
It
and
is.
you're almost, if you're not like that, you're almost kind of the weirdo. Like if you're not self-conscious about certain things, and that's okay. And I realize me saying that out loud, that I didn't solve anyone's problem. No one's like, oh, thanks, I'll just stop being self-conscious. Cool.
Well, I
It
think when
doesn't
you're,
work like that, but it works like anything else. Is just going, putting on your shoes, getting over it, training, going back over and over and over again, and you start to just stop caring because you're having
you
fun.
do.
To your point, it's like, well, I'm more concerned with my 200-pound back squat. I'm not really concerned what those people are thinking,
Right.
unless they want to spot me. I
I
don't
mean,
even
I
know.
would love for my 14-year-old son to be slightly impressed with what I can do.
Yeah,
The only person I'm trying to impress right now is my kid. Not really, but
no,
I'm just like, hey, I'll text him, hey, I got this. And he's like, yeah, well, I do that for 8 reps. I'm like, okay, fine.
yeah,
You know, it's a healthy sort of like competition, but I'm not doing it for him necessarily, other than to keep myself around longer. Um, but you go to a gym, you're sort of in a vulnerable state because if you're by yourself or, you're in different clothing. I mean, plenty of women exercise in baggy clothing or fitted clothing and that type of thing. So everyone's comfort level is different, but there is sort of this vulnerability when you do that. And people do tend to think that, oh, they're judging me, they're watching me or whatever. And like you said, that other girl who's hoping you're doing the same thing, everyone's in there for a different reason, whether it's someone who, recently lost 100 pounds and is keeping it off, or someone who's struggled with an eating disorder and they finally, have conquered that, or, someone who has joint pain. That's some things that I've encountered over the last year or so. And, maybe they're just finally increased their weights after months. Like sometimes it's hard to step back and think it's not really about you. People aren't focusing on you as much as you think they are. And it's easier to say than believe sometimes. But everyone is in there doing their own thing for their own reasons. And it may not be what you think. Um, and I think in ways we're all afraid to be judged, whether it's working out, our jobs, our parenting skills, how our relationship with our spouses, my husband and I choose to put our marriage as a priority and go on frequent date nights. That's not normal for some people or some, generations. Like you said, you're going to be judged no matter what you do, where you're at. So just do it.
well, I think your social media presence probably is reaching and touching and influencing a lot more people than you think. And I could say that because, I sent out weekly emails. There's probably it's probably around 150 people at this point. And every once in a while, I'll get a reply and I'll have to look up the person. I don't even know. You know what I mean? It's someone that
Yeah.
joined the program or signed up and never showed up or was there for a week and I haven't talked to in years. And they're just on the email list and I send out some motivation and stuff. And this does happen a couple times a year. Someone will reply and be like, hey, thanks for sending the emails. I've been doing the challenges, or something like that. And I don't even realize sometimes just being consistent
Mm-hmm.
on social media or with emails, there are people it connects with and they just don't necessarily say anything. So I would imagine with what the content that you post and the frequency that you post and the fact that it's unfiltered and unedited for the most part is probably touching a lot of people. So I would encourage people, if you're following Markie and her content has helped you, you should DM her. If you haven't done it, shoot her a message on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you follow her and just let her know that it's valuable, because it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to put yourself out there on social media. It's a hard thing to record yourself squatting in spandex. It just is,
It is. It
and
is.
and
And
you do that stuff routinely. So I applaud you for that, and I'm excited that you were gracious enough to give me your time today to talk about these things, because I think this episode could really. I mean, if it affects one person, then it was definitely worth the conversation, and it's
I
nice to
was,
learn more about it. And I've been excited to play. I've played like a very small role, because I feel like I was part of the crew that was the catalyst to kind of get you going. But
mhm.
ever since like that, I've played essentially no role, and I just get to sit back and be like, oh, she's still training. You know what I mean? Like, she's still working out. I see your
Yeah.
stuff on Train Heroic, and you know, and so and I see your stuff on Instagram, and so it's cool. I'm excited for you, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next 5 years, and hopefully your story and your presence can be a positive influence on a lot of other people on campus and just everywhere. I guess anyone is following you. So
Well, thank you. I was excited to do this because you've had a lot of professionals, nutrition, um, different providers, chiropractors. You've had a lot of good professionals on the podcast who have fantastic information. So I'm very, very honored that you asked me. And honestly, if it's just one person that's like, you know what, I'm going to start, I'm going to do this, then that makes me happy. That's all I want. Is for someone to just be like, okay, I'm going to give it a try, or I'm going to do this, or you know what, this week I'm going to lift just a little bit heavier, whatever. I just I feel like if I would have had some of the people that I've seen on social media, the good ones that I follow, if I would have seen some of those people or had some of that, which social media wasn't really a thing when I was in school. So I just think how much a different maybe my mindset, or at least perception of myself, would have been had I had those types of people to be influenced by, instead of unrealistic expectations on the front of your women's magazines, um, promoting, while trying to promote healthy lifestyles, but also, I would say unrealistic expectations. And I have two daughters. My oldest turned 16 on Monday, and I don't want her to grow up hating her body the way I had mine. And, she's built like I am. And so, she's struggled. She's had girls make comments to her at school. Um, and I just want her to have confidence that I didn't have. And I want my youngest daughter to have confidence that I didn't have, and to be okay. And that's okay to make space for themselves. And to just be okay with that. And that it's not too late to go back to school or to start working out, but ideally sort of sort of have this influence on them now. So then maybe as they get older, like, okay, we need to make this a priority. We need to do this. But I just, yeah, if there's just one person that can be like, okay, I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate, being real, whatever. That makes me happy. Like I said, my goal is not to have like 10,000 followers on Instagram. I don't, if that ever happens, great. Like, that is not my goal. But if that happened, fantastic. My goal is just to show people this is where I've started. This is where I'm at. This is what it's like. It's not all perfectly posed, filtered, and glamorous.
Yeah.
So, and I am forever very grateful that they had you start a fit club, and that, the 6 months were 6 months that have definitely changed my life and put me where I'm at today, because if I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that, in terms of where I'm at with my fitness and health and things like that. Like, that was huge.
I'm proud to be a part of it.
I thank you.
But you've done 99% of the work. And I wouldn't even say I've done 1%. I was a part of the crew that maybe contributed to the 1% that got you going. So thanks for being on today.
Thanks for having me.
And I appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, Chris.